Somewhere in Essex, there is a village where the roads are not paved. The houses were never meant to be lived in year-round, and the United Nations sent a special rapporteur to investigate the poverty. Not to a war zone, not to a developing country, to a seaside village 2 hours from London. The government has named it the most deprived neighbourhood in England 4 times in a row. 4. And it has had 6 different prime ministers since the first time it topped that list. None of them fixed it. And that is not even the most shocking place we are going to talk about today. The UK has some of the most extreme pockets of deprivation in Western Europe. According to the 2025 English Indices of Multiple Deprivation, 82% of the neighbourhoods classified as the most deprived were already in that category 6 years ago. The same streets, the same postcodes, the same families watching the same promises evaporate. So let us talk about 12 places in the UK you should never move to in 2026. And we are starting with one that most people only know for its football. Number 12 is Burnley, Lancashire. The 4th most deprived local authority in all of England, that is out of 296. 40% of its neighbourhoods sit in the most deprived 10% nationally, and 6 of those neighbourhoods rank as severely deprived across 6 out of 7 deprivation categories simultaneously. Income, employment, education, health, crime, and living environment, all failing at once in the same postcode. Burnley was a cotton town. At its peak in the early 1900s, it produced more cloth per head than anywhere else on the planet. The mills closed, the jobs vanished, and nothing of equivalent scale ever replaced them. Over half of children in Burnley live in families classified as income deprived. The lowest rate of pupils achieving educational benchmarks in Lancashire belongs to Burnley. A local resident told the Lancashire Evening Telegraph in 2024, "There is nothing for the kids here. They leave school and there is just nothing." Walk through the town centre today and you will see boarded-up shop fronts between betting shops and charity stores. There is something quietly devastating about a town that once clothed the world, now struggling to clothe its own children. Number 11 is Hastings, East Sussex. Most people think of 1066 and the Battle of Hastings. In 2025, a different kind of battle is being lost. Hastings is now the 14th most deprived local authority in England, and the data shows it is getting worse, not better. One of its neighbourhoods ranks among the 10 most deprived in the entire country. Crime rates sit at roughly 154 crimes per 1,000 residents, well above the national average. Barry Ashley runs the Grumpy Cook, a not-for-profit cafe in Hastings where people pay what they can or eat for free. He told the BBC, "The place is on its knees." He pointed to boarded-up shops and children without proper clothing. Here is the thing about Hastings. It looks beautiful from certain angles. The old town, the fishing boats, the cliffs. But many streets away from the seafront carry the weight of long-standing deprivation. Seasonal work creates income instability, and a large proportion of the housing stock is older rental properties, cycling through tenants who cannot afford to stay. Number 10 is Hartlepool, County Durham. Half of Hartlepool's neighbourhoods are classified as highly deprived. It ranks alongside Middlesbrough and Birmingham as one of the local authorities with the highest concentration of deprivation in England. The crime rate sits at 171 crimes per 1,000 residents, rated 8 out of 10 for crime severity nationally. Healthy life expectancy for men in Hartlepool is just 52.1 years. Let that sink in. A man in Hartlepool can expect to spend good health only until his early 50s. The national average is over 60. Hartlepool was a shipbuilding and steelworks town. When those industries collapsed, the economic floor fell out. Successive governments promised regeneration. The levelling up agenda came and went. Funding streams were short-term, the goals were disconnected, and the money was, according to academic researchers at Teesside University, vastly inadequate to the scale of the problem. One Hartlepool resident put it more bluntly to the Northern Echo. "They keep saying help is coming. We are still waiting. Number 9 is Kingston upon Hull, East Yorkshire. Hull has the 5th highest proportion of deprived neighbourhoods of any local authority in England. Male life expectancy here is among the bottom 4 in the entire United Kingdom. Several inner-city areas report persistently high levels of antisocial behaviour and property crime, and drug-related offences have become increasingly visible in districts already under social and economic strain. Hull was once one of the world's great fishing ports. The cod wars with Iceland in the 1970s effectively ended that. The trawler fleet disappeared, the docks went quiet, and the communities built around that industry never fully recovered. Some neighbourhoods still carry the weight of that industrial decline 50 years later, with limited job options and ageing infrastructure shaping daily life. There is something almost poetic about a city that once fed the nation now being unable to feed itself. Number 8 is Rotherham, South Yorkshire. One of Rotherham's neighbourhoods now ranks among the 10 most deprived areas in all of England, according to the 2025 indices. The town has struggled with a combination of post-industrial decline, high crime, and a series of institutional failures that have shattered public trust. Rotherham was steel country. The Templeborough Steelworks once employed thousands. When it closed, the town lost its economic centre of gravity. Employment deprivation remains stubbornly high, and parts of the town centre feel hollowed out. The child exploitation scandal that emerged in 2014 revealed systemic failures across multiple agencies, and the reputational damage has compounded the economic challenges. For people who live in Rotherham's most deprived wards, the combination of limited opportunity, high crime, and institutional betrayal creates a weight that statistics alone cannot capture. If you have made it this far, consider subscribing. It is completely free, and it helps us keep making these deep dives into the places and stories that nobody else is covering. We have a lot more coming. Number 7 is Middlesbrough, Teesside. Half of Middlesbrough's neighbourhoods are classified as very deprived. Not a quarter, not a third, half. That gives it the highest proportion of deprived neighbourhoods of any local authority in England, ahead of even Birmingham and Hartlepool. Cleveland, the police force area covering Middlesbrough, recorded approximately 122 crimes per 1,000 population in 2024 to 2025, the highest crime rate of any police force area in England and Wales. Middlesbrough was built on iron and steel. At its peak, the town's blast furnaces lit up the Tees Valley and the population boomed on the back of heavy industry. Deindustrialization hollowed it out. Academic research describes Middlesbrough as a textbook left-behind place, where persistent deprivation has been entrenched for 4 decades. The investment required to turn it around, researchers at Teesside University argue, is unlikely to arrive under the current economic model. A local councillor told the Teesside Gazette, "People here do not need another strategy document. They need jobs that actually pay." Number 6 is Bradford, West Yorkshire. The 12th most deprived local authority in England, the 4th most income deprived, the 5th most employment deprived. 40% of children in Bradford live below the poverty line. Nearly 20% of households are in fuel poverty. Parts of the city repeatedly fall into England's most deprived 10%, particularly around City Ward, Little Horton and Manningham, where antisocial behaviour and drug-related incidents stay above the national average. According to the Numbeo Crime Index, Bradford ranks as the most dangerous city in the UK, with a crime index of 68.1. Bradford has strong cultural roots and a young population. It was named UK City of Culture for 2025, with millions invested in the arts. But the day-to-day reality for residents in the most deprived wards is shaped by overlapping pressures: low wages, rising rents, poor health outcomes, and an education system struggling to keep pace. Bradford is not a bad city. It is a city where the gap between what was promised and what was delivered has become impossible to ignore. Number 5 is Luton, Bedfordshire. Luton appears on almost every worst places to live ranking published in the UK, and the reasons are consistent. Limited employment opportunities, safety concerns, particularly after dark, a shortage of vibrant social or community spaces. The town centre has struggled with declining footfall and empty retail units. Public infrastructure is ageing, and transport links feel slow and congested despite the town sitting just 30 miles north of London. Vauxhall Motors once employed over 30,000 people in Luton. That number has shrunk to a fraction. The airport provides jobs, but also transient populations and noise complaints that affect residential quality of life. A Luton resident told the I Live Here survey, "The high street died years ago. Nobody came to the funeral." There is something darkly funny about a town with an international airport where most people just want to leave. Number 4 is Nottingham, East Midlands. Nottingham has consistently carried one of the highest crime rates in the UK, earning it the nickname Crime Capital in national press. The city ranks 6th on the Numbeo Crime Index for British cities, with a diverse profile of offences including violent crime and drug-related incidents. The 2025 deprivation data confirms that Nottingham sits among the areas with historically large manufacturing sectors that have experienced concentrated deprivation. Parts of the city rank in the most deprived 10% nationally for crime, and the gap between the prosperous suburbs and the struggling inner-city wards is stark. Nottingham has 2 major universities and a vibrant student culture. But the student economy creates its own distortions, with large populations of temporary residents who leave after 3 years and a housing market skewed toward short-term lets. For long-term residents in the more deprived areas, the contrast between university prosperity and neighbourhood decline is a daily reminder of who the city is built for and who it has forgotten. Number 3 is Blackpool, Lancashire. Here is where things get properly grim. Blackpool is the most deprived local authority in England on average deprivation score. It has been since 2019. It ranks first for employment deprivation, first for health and disability deprivation, and second for crime deprivation out of all 296 local authorities. 7 of the 10 most deprived neighbourhoods in the entire country are in Blackpool. Not 7 out of 100, 7 out of 10. Blackpool has the lowest male life expectancy in the entire United Kingdom. A boy born in Blackpool between 2022 and 2024 can expect to live to 73.7 years. In Hart, Hampshire, it is 83.7. That is a decade, in the same country. Drug deaths in Blackpool are almost 4 times higher than the rest of England. Male healthy life expectancy is just 50.9 years, meaning the average man in Blackpool spends roughly a third of his life in poor health. Life expectancy has actually dropped since 2014, falling 18 months while everywhere else was trying to recover from the pandemic. The council has roughly £1,400 less per person to spend than it did a decade ago, and its public health grant has been cut by £10 per person since 2013. 86% of new benefit claimants in Blackpool come from outside the borough, drawn by the cheap accommodation in converted guest houses that have been carved into tiny flats and bedsits. A Blackpool councillor told the Health Scrutiny Committee, "I was concerned to read life expectancy for men is now the lowest in the country." Health officials confirmed there were many men who died in their 40s due to long-standing addictions. Blackpool still has the tower, the illuminations, and 3 piers. Millions of tourists visit every year. They see the Golden Mile. They do not see Bloomfield Ward, the most deprived ward in Lancashire, ranked the most deprived in England for income, employment, and crime. The tourists go home. The residents cannot. Number 2 is Jaywick, Essex, the most deprived neighbourhood in England, for the 4th consecutive time since 2010. The village was built in the 1930s by an entrepreneur named Frank Stedman as a holiday resort for working-class Londoners. Cheap wooden chalets close to the sea, an affordable escape. They were never designed to be lived in year-round. But after the Second World War, a housing shortage in London meant families moved in permanently. They never left. Today, many of those original structures are still standing, in various states of disrepair. Roads remain unpaved. According to a 2011 Guardian report, 62% of working-age residents were on benefits, compared to 15% nationally. The Citizens Advice Bureau found that 40% of residents were unable to work due to disability or long-term illness. Drug abuse is a particular problem. Private developers will not invest because of the area's reputation and the constant flood risk. The council drew up a £126 million 20-year regeneration plan, but the government has not pledged to support it. 100 million of that is just for sea defences. Christopher Thompson, a 60-year-old local resident, told the BBC, "It is deprived. It needs investment. There is nothing here for the kids. The community is amazing. Amazing people down here. They all help each other out." In 2018, a photograph of Jaywick's unpaved roads and dilapidated homes was used in a United States election campaign advertisement as a warning. The image was presented as if it could be from a developing country. It was from Essex, 60 miles from London. There is something almost unbearable about a place that was designed for joy, for holidays, for escape, becoming a place that people cannot escape from. And number 1. This is not a single place, it is a pattern. According to the 2025 Indices of Multiple Deprivation, 65% of all local authorities in England now contain at least one highly deprived neighbourhood. That is up from 61% in 2019. The most deprived areas are concentrated in northern England, coastal towns and former industrial heartlands, but pockets exist everywhere. In London, Tower Hamlets and Hackney have the highest rates of child income deprivation. In Stamford Hill, Hackney, the proportion of children affected by income deprivation jumped from 8.9% in 2019 to 99.9% in 2025. The forces that created every place on this list have not disappeared. Deindustrialization, corporate abandonment, chronic underinvestment, short-term funding that arrives with fanfare and evaporates before it changes anything. The 2025 data shows these are not relics of the past, they are the present. And in 58% of cases, the most deprived neighbourhoods in England are in the north. If you take anything from these 12 stories, maybe let it be this. Every one of these places was once someone's main street, someone's childhood, someone's entire world. Blackpool had the Tower and the tourists, Hull had the trawlers, Burnley clothed the planet. They had schools and neighbours and corner shops where people knew your name. The speed with which they were abandoned by industry and then by government should unsettle anyone who thinks their own community is permanent. Because the forces that hollowed out these 12 places are not finished. They are just looking for the next town. Tell me in the comments which place surprised you most, and if you live in one of these places, I want to hear from you. Because the people who know these stories best are the ones who are living them.